The World Soul Saga is ending soon, and it really does seem like Blizzard is coming at us with everything they got. Sargeras, Illidan, Titans, Void Lords, Xal'atath, they seem to be spending their entire villain arsenal that really got many of us to wonder what is even left for us after the last Titan. However, if you've been following the bit lesser known lore, some hints between the lines and such, you know that we still got quite a few significant threats to deal with, and some forgotten ones, but incredibly deadly threats that lurk in the shadows. The Legion is still roaming the universe, demons unleashed with no one to control them. The Scourge in Denatrius, the mastermind that was really behind most things people attributed to the Jailer. As you may remember, his Dreadlords free him, and the entire thing ended with a cliffhanger of him coming back soon. So what villains does World of Warcraft still have left, the ones that the entire expansions could be based on? You can actually play War Within on your phone with Awesome, this video's sponsor. Check in on your characters or just play the game, as you can control your PC with your phone completely free. Awesome is super easy to use. Check out the link and download the PC and the phone app and just connect it. The free version itself is amazing. You can control your desktop, transfer files, but the real deal is the game version. It has custom keyboards for various games other than just WoW, and you can enjoy AFK gaming at any time, anywhere with game sound. Make sure to use my code ON to get 7 days completely free, only for the first 200 people. Startable Gaming is they got hot sales up to 40% off on Pro and game versions. Check out Awesome. So here's the thing, the World Soul Saga is really written in a way to be an end of a pretty large era. Back before we knew 3 expansions in advance, we had a few speculations on what could be coming next, from the Light, to the Void, to the Titans, to Sargeras. Blizzard then decided to essentially create a saga where they would pull all the big villains, all the big threats they had built over the years, and really by the info we have, we are going to deal with pretty much all of the villains so far, which really got many of us to wonder what even is next, who is left to deal with after that, will they have to make up new villains. Luckily, a lot of villains actually do exist, some pretty big problems as well, maybe not as big as the Void Lords or Sargeras, but they're pretty large threats that they could have entire expansions be based on them. Now, realistically, there are about 5 that are essentially confirmed to happen in the saga, so I really don't want to talk about these guys. For example, Ashara we know is going to return at any moment, we know the Void Lords are going to be the main villains, we know that Iridikron will be relevant in the last Titan, and by the way things are set up, almost certainly the Titans are going to end up as potentially the largest villains out there. However, other than some of these, others do exist, and let's start with the list. Burning Legion. Now, I've talked about this so many times by now, but a lot of people forget that the Legion is not actually gone. Technically, the Burning Legion as an organized army led by Sargeras is gone, but former members definitely remain. What not many people keep in mind is the demons were essentially a threat to all the planets of the universe even before Sargeras took control and organized them. Random demonic groups were constantly invading from the Twisting Nether, and Sargeras back in the day as a Titan had to deal with them pretty much all the time. The only difference back then was that they weren't a giant organized force empowered by a world soul. However, what is very important to keep in mind is that they have been organized for at least 25,000 years, which is really an insane time span. Throughout this time, they had a whole bunch of bases and outposts that still remain today. They had a lot of commanders and intelligence, training grounds, advanced weapons. These are not random savage demons attacking you with their claws and teeth. No, they got crazy armor, weapons, spells, and a whole other wide arsenal. Throughout the years since Sargeras was imprisoned and the main brain was gone, it was hinted that the various overlords and other powerful demons had battled for supremacy in one giant power vacuum. This is very important though. First of all, they do have a lot of powerful commanders still out there. Maybe not as powerful as Archimonde or Kil'jaeden, but they are around. Second, the Burning Legion was essentially Sargeras' private army used to battle the Void. Realistically, demons don't really care about the Void, and now they're not battling them, so they have plenty of time to actually recover their numbers. The most important point though is that since Legion and with time skip, and by the time the saga ends, it will be well over 10-20 years that they had time to gather their numbers back. Imagine if some demon starts actually fighting for demon goals, not a converted Titans goals, and they start to build their own demonic-only army, using the Legion infrastructure and legacy, but much more savage. We legit could be in for another threat just as bad as the Void Lords. Scourge. Now, I've been talking about the Scourge returning for years now as well, just like the Legion, but the thing is, this might actually happen in the last Titan. While we did defeat them back in Wrath, and we defeated the Lich King and Bolvar and the crown was destroyed, the Scourge is still a major threat. This has been confirmed by the official Blizzard book Exploring Azeroth Northrend, where we've learned that there's still large numbers even post Shadowlands, but the most important part is that their machinery actually works. We've learned that the Fleshworks is still building undead and most of their old tech is up and running. They have been pumping undead pretty much non-stop, especially now without the Lich King like Bolvar to control them. This is the main reason he became the Lich King, so that they're not left to their own devices, and now they are left to their own devices. Now, they told us that while they're building undead, it isn't really the same numbers like Wrath, where they were a war machine. Right now, they don't really have anyone guiding them, and they don't have the reason to pump out undead. However, two key things are important here. First is that they have the ability to multiply, already established, so they don't have to start from scratch. Second is that a new leader can arise any moment. We have learned that right now the various warlords, just like with the Legion, are controlling separate groups, but if a big guy like Denatrius or some very intelligent being steps in, the Scourge may be a significant threat and potentially even bigger than they originally were back in the day. Kel'Thuzad. So this is actually a lesser known threat and really not that big of a deal like the Legion or Sargeras, but Warburton actually hinted that Kel'Thuzad may be returning for another time, which is like, what, the 5th time now? So as you may know, Kel'Thuzad was essentially immortal. It went as far as him being within the Shadowlands and orchestrating chaos there, and that way he was kinda defeated for good. However, in the Warburton, we had discovered this weird pocket dimension that he actually created for himself, where he conducted his wild experiments while he was still a relatively normal mage of Dalaran. While this isn't exactly the Lich Kel'Thuzad, you all know how weird World of Warcraft can really be with these pocket dimensions and alternate timelines, where we have fought 2 Archimons, we got 2 Gul'dans coming to Azeroth. Kel'Thuzad experimented with a lot of really strange magics, and I wouldn't be surprised if he managed to maintain a part of his soul or anchored something for him to actually return to the main timeline. Now, I'm not saying that Kel'Thuzad is like an expansion-worthy, world-destroying villain, but him taking over the Scourge would actually make sense. In the last Titan, for example, he was essentially the second in command to both Ner'zhul and Arthas, and we may be seeing this guy returning once again. Denatrius. So, out of everyone on this list, this is pretty much the confirmed villain to return, and really one of the only bright spots of the Shadowlands. People actually mistakenly attribute the crazy big brain plans to Zoal, while by the lore, most of these were actually done by Denatrius, who is the actual father of the Dreadlords, the guy who created them. He was something of a secret agent of the Death Realm, and throughout Shadowlands we've learned that this guy has meddled everywhere, invaded everyone from the light to the void, and planned a whole bunch of things. Then he had an alliance with Zoal, but obviously he was working against him. He is actually the creator of the Scourge through the Nathrezim, and he is the true Lich King and their true leader. Now, you may remember that back in the Shadowlands, when he was defeated and imprisoned, the Dreadlords came from all over the universe, freed him, and the only time we had seen him was when the Shadowlands ended, when we've learned that he apparently had something planned and was playing some sort of a double game with Zoal. Since then, he's gone with his Dreadlords, and you can bet that he's almost certainly going to return, and I honestly expect it to happen in the World Soul Saga. He could become the Lich King, and with his rule, the Scourge could become much more dangerous than it ever was, but he could also infiltrate something else. Realistically, he has been doing these long cons for thousands and thousands of years across the universe, and I think if he were to come to Azeroth, it would be in a super well thought out plan where he could legit become an expansion or even multiple expansions worthy villain. The only problem with Denatrius could be that he really is a Shadowlands era villain, despite being well written, and recently Blizzard has been kind of distancing themselves as much as possible from this Shadowlands lore, but they did just bring back the brokers in the newest patch, so I don't think they plan to discard this guy, especially since he was so well received. So really, this could be a potential S-tier future villain. Alternate Yrel. Personally, I think we could see her in Midnight in the World Soul Saga, as the whole Light Army will probably come, and this is one of the most famous topics of speculation for a big villain because no one really saw this coming originally. Yrel was this Warlords of Draenor character, noble and good, and then after we helped her defend Draenor from the Orcish invasion, we've learned that she became worse than the enemy she fought. She essentially forced everyone to follow the light. We've learned that this fanatic light worshipping started to kill the planet itself, and that Yrel became something of a fanatical leader of an entire planet's army. This is information from years ago, so by this current point, it could have gotten much worse, and who knows how powerful she really is. Now, personally, if Blizzard does decide to go with the evil light angle, I don't think Yrel is going to be like the new Sargeras or something like that, but I think she would become a major character or an important figure, but not exactly the center of an entire expansion. It is hard to say what Blizzard really plans to do with the light at this point in time, because they keep going back and forth that no one even knows what is real anymore. The light army has been confirmed to come in midnight and something will be up, but I think if the new Light Arati become bad or we get another Zera that wants to force convert us, getting the alternate Draenor portal up could literally be a whole expansion. They could center the entire expansion around the fabled and iconic Dark Portal that would now become the Light Portal, and we would get an invasion of the Light Orcs, Ogres, Draenei attacking us, which at this point sounds somewhat unholy, but it could legit be a thing. So alternate Yrel, the Naru, and the Light could legit be a significant future threat in World of Warcraft. Thanks for watching. Check out this vow to actually coming by clicking on the screen, and check out my real world history channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!